To start off with, I'd like to have our Sergeant at Arms, Silvio Gonzalez, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand if you can, as you can. And our own Mr. Joseph Oddie will render taps. On this 22nd anniversary, we remember the 343 firefighters and paramedics who died, along with 23 police officers who selflessly gave their lives on 9/11. Many who survived have lived with debilitating health problems ever since. At this time, I'd like to render a prayer. Uncover. Lord God, thank you for the courageous men and women who have chosen such difficult and dangerous jobs, police, fire, EMTs, and others. Thank you for their sacrifices and service. Thank you for their hard work in training and preparing. Help them to feel the respect and gratitude of their communities. Lord, have mercy on those who must wait, trust, and hope every time a first responder goes into action. They are all too aware of the dangers their loved ones faces. Please keep them in perfect peace, steady their minds, and help them to trust in you. Amen. At this time, I'd like to invite past Commander Steve Bradford to give us a brief history on the awards ceremony.
Please be seated. Good morning. We've been holding this ceremony for about 15 years now, where we recognize those from our local police and fire and EMS services that have gone above and beyond in the past year. The process begins with a recommendation from the chiefs of those organizations to us, and then we proceed with the recommendations from the chiefs, and so glad to see all the families that have come out to support those that have gone above and beyond in the past year. I want to recognize James Arena DeRosa. He's our state representative, and he'll be presenting citations from his office and from Senate President Spilka's office. I also want to recognize our Chair of Select Board here in Holliston, John Cronin, and we thank you both for being here. So without further ado, I'll turn it back to the Commander for the presentation of the awards.
Thank you, Stephen. At this time, I would invite Select Board Member John Cronin to give us a few words.
Thank you, Ron. Good morning. It is my honor on behalf of the Holliston Select Board to appear before you this morning to say some very humble words to each of the first responders and the awardees, and that is a profound and humble thank you. I think it's very fitting, as Commander Bradford indicated, that we link these ceremonies this morning to the memorial of the 9/11 tragedy, where over 350 of your peers perished that day answering the call to duty. As we think on those that have passed before us, I'm reminded, looking at each of you this morning, of the hope we have that every time the bell rings, you'll be there to help us. And there is nothing more we can ask of a public servant than to be there at a time of need. So please, please accept our profound thank you for doing that. And I also wanted to link that to each of the family members. They stay behind when you leave for the day, and they hope you're coming home. And we trust that every year when we see you, that you'll be back safely. So please, on behalf of Ben Sparrow, Tina Hine, and myself, please understand the citizens of Holliston deeply appreciate your service and your willingness to answer that bell and put yourself in harm's way for our protection. We most profoundly thank you. And congratulations to each of the inductees today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. At this time, I'd ask State Rep James Arena DeRosa a few words.
Thank you, Ron. Good morning, everybody. Delighted to be here. It's such an honor to represent the town of Holliston, and I am honored by all the work that you do every single day, that you put your lives on the line at a moment's notice, and for all the challenges that we've had in public service the last few years. You know, what's the first thing that people do when they need help? They jump on the phone, dial 911. So thank you all for your work. And it's really nice that this ceremony is held. I so enjoy when we honor those who serve our military service, but there are so many ways that people serve the public, and this is one of them. Our first responders certainly do a great job every day of their lives. And one of the reminders, as tragic as 9/11 was, there are still challenges with some of the first responders. We're learning that some of the cancer rates, Ron alluded to this, there are still health issues, and I hope that those of us in government remember to take care of them in any way that we can. I just wanted to add one note. We're having a lot of conversations in Holliston right now about the character of our community, which is an important conversation. And some people think it means the way it looks, but to me it's also what kind of people we have, who serves our town. And you know, I rode up with Chief Stone to one of the police chiefs events, and we were talking. He said, James, he says, Holliston in Metro West is getting so expensive. My young officers can't afford Holliston. And we had this great retirement party with the firefighters a month or so ago, and I reminded them that I think more than half of them had worked on my house on Mechanic Street. But as things change, we're going to lose the character of this town if we're not careful. And Metro West is getting so expensive. I don't know what the answer is. But when we think about affordability and housing, we also have to think about the people who serve their town every single day. When I coached Little League Baseball, I think of the coaches, the people who are involved, the parents. We had a firefighter, we had a police officer, we had people who worked here in Town Hall, we had people who worked at the schools. That's changing. And I don't want our town in 25 years to be a town where everybody who works in town can't live here and everybody who lives here, you know, works an hour or two away. So lots of challenges in the years ahead, but let's make sure in public service, those of us in government, remember the people that serve their community and serve their town. Thank you all for the work that you do every single day. I'm getting to know you slowly over time, and I'm enjoying working with your chiefs and the departments and the select board in the months and years ahead. Thank you again. Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Ron. Delighted to be here. It's an honor, and I do have citations as we go through each honoree. Thank you very much.
I want to recognize the fact that our town administrator, Travis Ahern, is with us as well. Thank you, Travis, for being here. It is my great honor to preside over these awards of merit for our first responders, who the citizens of Holliston have come to depend on. Those who have been trained to react quickly and effectively, rendering critical care, sometimes life-saving. Some would say that they're just doing their job, but it's much more than that. It's a dedication to duty, a desire to serve, being able to act in a professional way and at times ignoring your own welfare. Being able to be the cool head in a difficult situation is not something everyone can do. It takes much courage to be able to act on that training when you put others first. At this time, I would like to call Deputy Fire Chief Alan Greendale to assist giving out the awards to the fire department, as well as Walter McGrath. You're going to help him too. Good. As I call your name, please come forward and face the audience if you wouldn't mind. First up is Captain Keith McEwen. On Sunday, September 11th in 2022, the department was dispatched to a 9:43 p.m. report of a rollover crash on Highland Street by Summit Point Drive with multiple injuries. As the weekend duty officer, Captain McEwen coordinated the proper allocation of resources, which ensured that all 5 patients were treated and transported to a trauma center, 2 by helicopter and 3 by car. The vehicle was stabilized and the scene was safe. Congratulations, Captain McEwen. There will be time for photos at the end. At this time, I'd like to call forward EMT Tyler Chapman and EMT Sarah O'Connell. On Thursday, February 9th, 2023, the ambulance was dispatched to a 6:30 a.m. report of an unresponsive party on the front lawn of a Central Street home. Upon arrival, EMTs Chapman and O'Connell ensured proper handling and rapid transport of a hypothermic patient to a nearby emergency department. Congratulations. I don't believe Lieutenant Rich Coughlin is here. Is he here? No. Okay. A citation for Lieutenant Rich Coughlin. On Saturday, March 18th, 2023, the department was dispatched to a 9:56 p.m. report of a fatal rollover crash on Highland Street. As the weekend duty officer, Lieutenant Coughlin coordinated the proper allocation of resources, which ensured that the victims of the crash were treated with dignity and respect while minimizing access to the scene, cognizant of the emotional and the physical consequences to first responders who function at a critical incident. Thank you, Lieutenant Rich Coughlin. At this time, I'd like to call forward EMT Paul Coffey, firefighter EMT Stephen Garrett, paramedic Rhonda Matson, firefighter EMT Alexander Porter, and telecommunicator Lori Rokes. What a crowd. On Monday, July 24th, 2023, the department was dispatched to a 3:56 p.m. report of an explosion on a Westfield Drive residence resulting in injury. Telecommunicator Lori Ropes calmly and efficiently dispatched the appropriate resources. On duty, on-duty ambulance personnel EMT Paul Coffey and paramedic Rhonda Matson, assisted by firefighters Steve Garrett and Alex Porter from Engine 3, ensured 2 patients, both with significant burn injuries, were treated and rapidly transported to a landing zone at the high school to transport by helicopters to burn centers in Boston. And it is my pleasure to say that survivor Robert Nelson and his wife Loretta are here with us today, as well as Mary O'Connell, whose husband Tim is still at rehab at Spalding. And joining us too is Tim's son Bob and his girlfriend Loretta. So thank you for being with us. And congratulations, folks. Big job. Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to call forward Chief Matt Stone to assist in the awards for the police department. And he will be assisted by Martin Spellacy. Martin? I'd like to call forward, I know Matt Waugh is not here, Officer John Loftus and Officer Charles Grace. Please come forward. On the morning of Wednesday, October 19th, 2022, Sergeant Matthew Waugh and Officer John Loftus and Charles Grace were dispatched to Bridle Path for the report of a woman who was in and out of consciousness and was experiencing difficulty breathing. Upon arriving, Sergeant Waugh and Officer Loftus were brought to a first-floor bedroom where the female patient was lying in bed, not breathing. After not finding a pulse, Sergeant Waugh and Officer Loftus brought her to the floor and immediately began CPR. A short time later, Officer Grace arrived on scene to assist. After 3 rounds of CPR cycles with a no shock advised from the defibrillator, AED, paramedics from the Ashland Fire Department arrived on scene, and the 3 of you continued CPR until the Ashland paramedics advised that the patient had regained some heart activity. Once again, inside the back of the ambulance, the paramedics updated officers on scene that the patient had regained both a pulse and blood pressure, but was not yet breathing on her own. Congratulations. At this time, I'd like to call forward Officer Henny and Officer Grace. On the afternoon of December 18th, 2022, at approximately 12:51 p.m., Officer Henny arrived with Officer Grace, were dispatched to a residence on Karen Circle for a possible overdose. Upon arrival, you were directed upstairs where you located a female lying in the threshold between 2 rooms. A check of her carotid artery indicated no pulse, and the victim was experiencing agonal breathing. The victim's skin color was blue, and she had vomit around her mouth and on her clothes. It was at this time that you, Officer Grace, and Holliston Fire Department Captain Brian Grace began CPR on the victim. After a few minutes of CPR, Officer Grace administered 1 dose of Narconon, before connecting the patient to the defibrillator. After delivering several more rounds of CPR and rescue breaths to the victim, a second dose of Nexalon were administered. CPR continued for several more minutes until the victim eventually regained a pulse and began breathing on her own. Congratulations again. Excellent. Naloxone, that's what it is. At this time, I'd like to call forward Dispatcher Tuttle. On the afternoon of July 24th, 2023, at approximately 3:49 p.m., while working as the only dispatcher in the Holliston Police Department Emergency Communications Center, you received an E911 call reporting a house explosion with injury victims on Westfield Drive. You immediately dispatched all available units to the scene. Your calm and professional radio communications facilitated the prompt response of Sergeant Hagan, Officer Charrett, Holm, and Craig. Sergeant Hagan, the shift supervisor for that evening, said that you remained focused while multitasking through a very complex call for service. We are often reminded how hectic an incident of this nature could be, but you handled each call and radio transmission with care and compassion. Even after the scene was stabilized by first responders, you continued to field multiple calls inquiring about what had occurred. Your initiative, while controlling the dispatch center during the incident, truly demonstrates your competence in the field of public safety dispatching and aligns with the high standards that our agency prides itself on. Because of your extraordinary efforts on that day, 2 victims of this explosion are alive today. Your initiative, persistence, teamwork, competence, and overall excellent judgment prevented this call from becoming deadly tragedy. Congratulations. And at this time, I'd like to call forward Sergeant Hagan, Officers Holm, Craig, and Charrett. Again, during that same July 24th incident on Westfield Drive, Officers Holm, Craig, Charrett, and Sergeant Hagan were the first emergency personnel on scene and immediately began providing medical care to 2 seriously injured individuals. Upon Sergeant Hagan's arrival, he stated that all 3 officers were working together as a cohesive unit in a calm manner and were focused on the task at hand. Your professional actions allowed Sergeant Hagan to better assess the situation, prepare the scene for arriving fire EMS apparatus, and communicate additional information to our dispatch center. Upon the arrival of EMS personnel, Officer Hume, Craig, and Charrett continued to work professionally as a team with medical response and rendered critical medical care to the victims. Your immediate actions in the field allowed for a prompt transport by helicopter to medical trauma centers in Boston. Because of your extraordinary efforts, again, 2 victims are alive today. Congratulations. At this time, that concludes the award ceremony. We'd like to have the people come back up for a group shot with our state rep, if you have time.